Barbershop banter from London to Lagos is the focus of award-winning playwright Inua Ellams' new stage show at the National Theatre. Barbershop Chronicles looks at the role salons play in giving black men a place to come together and talk unfettered and uncensored. I'm very pleased to say Inua joins us on the sofa this lunchtime. Welcome to London Live News.
Thanks for having me.
What was the inspiration for this show?
Years and years ago, a woman I was dating told me about a project by a charity to train barbers on the very basics of counseling. And I thought that was very, very fascinating. Initially, I wanted to be a poet attached to the project, but I couldn't get that chunk of the work funded. But the idea stayed with me, the concept of really intimate conversation between barbers and the client. So initially, I just began to explore those spaces, mostly like a voyeur, but I met really interesting characters and men, and the conversations were so varied that it stayed with me and haunted me till the voices began to grow beyond the realms of poetry into fully fledged conversations in my head. And I just wanted to travel to find out more.
I read that you have based this play on 6 cities, one day, and thousands of conversations. Give us an idea of the sort of research, sort of travelling you did to put this together.
At the close of 2013, I traveled to South Africa, Zimbabwe, Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, and Ghana, to mostly the capital cities there, and just hung around with barbers and their clients for a week in each country, in each city. And the conversations there came from the men at those precise moments in their lives, really. And what my role as a writer has been since then is to fine-tune those conversations into making them timeless. So maybe 50 to 60% of the conversations are as they happen, and everything else I invented, I created characters, merged characters together, etc.
And also London, how does the conversation compare, perhaps differ, or perhaps similar from city to city as it is in the capital?
Well, London was more cosmopolitan. So everywhere I traveled, I found parallels within characters in Zimbabwe and South Africa with characters here in London. So it seemed to be like the melting pot, the base, the unifying, the common denominator of all the conversations that I had in all the countries that I visited.
What do you think it is about barbershops that offers many men an opportunity to talk uncensored?
I think it's because it's a safe space. And that is because, and it exists in a safe space and continues to, because for a lot of time, a lot of the history of black people and their presence in Britain, men have been denied, and black people of color have been denied safe spaces. And I think of places like football matches, for instance, where lots of men gather to show strong emotions, and historically they've been particularly hostile to people of color, players on and off the pitch, and just regular dudes sitting in the audience. I think of places like Working Men's Club. Again, they weren't really accessible to people of color. Sometimes I think we viewed them in suspicion, as if they went there to create policies which would further extract us from the larger British society. And I think of drinking culture, which I didn't really grow up into when I lived in Nigeria. We didn't really go to pubs or places like that where we just sat down and the main focus was to drink. Whereas barbershops then are places where we can sort of escape from our lives, from our families, from our friends, and where we'd have a legitimate reason to do this one thing which we would go and spend 4 hours doing here.
Talking.
Talking and talking. Yeah.
You know what, this is your third play at the National. You've had incredible success, an award-winning poet and playwright. Do you find that London offers a space to so-called black theatre that perhaps nowhere else does?
I think it's definitely better primed for black theatre, and this is because those audiences are found here. Most of the people who come to shows that sort of center on the black experience do have friends from those cultures. Therefore, what they see on stage is a reflection of their friendships, of themselves sometimes, or the lives that permeate theirs, that kind of intermix with theirs. Therefore, I think it's fertile ground for the kinds of stories that I write.